When it comes to sex, there's no limit to the creativity and energy put forth in keeping that shit exciting and entertaining. Yes, I think we all can touch and agree that sex is supposed to be an act to express and enhance and forge lasting bonds with your partner. It's a way to physically manifest your love and admiration and respect for whom you're with. But let's be honest, just between us, sex is supposed to be fun. From the beginning of time, sex has been used as a form of enjoyment and pleasure. But we gonna focus on the pleasure part, shall we? What does that look like? What does it smell like? What does it taste like? How does that feel? Now, you'd be surprised with all the kinds of kinky shit that goes on behind closed and not so closed doors. You would. I wouldn't. Now, let's take a trip back to ancient times. I'm talking about motherfuckers was so horny that entire cities were destroyed, if you believe in your Bible. Depictions of orgies, homosexuality, transsexuals, hermaphrodites, gangbangs, oral sex, bondage, and on have been frozen in time for eternity through art, sculptures, and ancient texts, and even more. As long as living creatures have been here, sex has too. Now that's a long ass time. I'm not here to debate the meaning of sex or even the appropriateness of it. Today's show is all about busting that nut and the journey people enjoy along the way.
Toxic. Love, sip of whiskey. Love. Indeed. Let's talk about it. We ain't sipping no tea, sipping no whiskey. We don't make love, but we fuck when we get tipsy. We ain't got no shame in our game. Ain't do nothing wrong, cause this for the ground.
All right, guys, so tonight we're sipping on Bullet Rye. I'm not going to hold you too long on the Bullet Rye because, as y'all know, rye whiskey is my favorite. A lot of people ask the question, what's the difference? Why is rye whiskey different? What does it taste like? Well, taste it for yourself. But rye whiskey is a little drier than your normal whiskey. They mash in a rye blend instead of regular like corn or wheat. And it just gives it more of an organic flavor, if that makes sense. It's not everybody's jam. I've said that before, but I enjoy a good rye. Now, Bullet is actually distilled in Illinois, I believe. And to learn more about them, of course, go to bullet.com. But Bullet, you know, it goes with tonight's theme. But I just enjoy a good glass of rye. And we're going to pour this on the rocks per usual with a little bit of Coke because y'all know I got to stay functional with the podcast. And no, we don't measure no pours in this joint. We just pour till I feel like it. It look about right. Grab me a little Coke. I wish y'all could smell it. It smells really good. Most of the whiskeys have caramel notes in it. Oaky. Just all about how they blend it. Right? And we're all good. Now again, I enjoy a good bottle of Bullet because it's like that mid-grade whiskey. It's not super cheap where it's gonna burn your chest, and it's not too expensive to share. Cause some bottles you just don't wanna share. But with Bullet, feel free to grab that for a party or an event. It's a good, healthy blend of whiskey. All right, now let's get into it. Now let's dip our pinky toe into the shallow end of the waters first, okay? Not too fast, too soon. Let's start with some of the most common sexual fantasies. I mean, after all, today's episode is sex, fetishes, hidden fantasies, abnormal desires, and practices. Let's start, like I said, with the most common sexual fantasies. So, sex in abnormal locations. Abnormal locations meaning not in bed, not where you would traditionally have sex. But again, this is subjective because everyone will have a different idea of what abnormal is for them, right? But y'all get the point. People often start here first. Daydreaming of having sex in taboo places such as airplanes, public spaces, offices, outside, in the pool, someone else's bed, etc. I think we've all been there where, the mood just hits you and you feel like getting it in. And if you're adventurous, then you go ahead and do so. But this can also get you in trouble. So y'all don't be out here just popping up and having sex in random places and being like, oh, Sex.Love.Whiskey said to do it. No, I'm talking about fantasies. And sometimes fantasies belong in your head and not done in real life. But this one, y'all can get away with this. Okay? Because I know for myself, sex in abnormal locations is, my go to spice it up, to do things a little different. Sometimes sex can get mundane and you don't want to just have sex in your bed when it's time to go to sleep. So, this is an easy way to spice things up in the bedroom. All right, let's move on. Domination. Domination. Especially since 50 Shades of Grey came out and piqued its interest of lonely housewives everywhere, the idea for women has become wildly popular for domination. But let's be honest though, there's nothing new about fantasizing about being told what to do in the bedroom. There's different layers to this shit though, right? Follow me. So, most people that want to be dominated or fantasize about being dominated in the bedroom have dominant roles in their everyday life. They are the ones in control and give orders, the managers, the business owners, the entrepreneurs. So, when it comes to sex, they might fantasize about being vulnerable, being held captive, pinned down, submissive. Because why? It's not something that they get on a regular basis. It's not something that they're absolutely used to, right? All right. Now, being dominant or fantasizing of being dominated can go the other way as well. So you have people who are normally passive, right? Who normally aren't aggressive and assertive, but they flip the script as well and they dream and fantasize of being the dominator. So they want to be the one that's in charge during sex. They want to be the one who's cracking that whip. We'll get there. But they want to be the one that's calling the shots and telling everybody what to do and taking control of the bedroom situation. So, two different coins or two different sides to the coin. The person that's being dominated and the dominator. All right, let's talk about multiple partners. Most commonly, a threesome, right? If you're really dirty, a gangbang. But I don't know about you, but I believe this is the most common fantasy for men specifically, the threesome. I can't tell you how many men I have heard talk about wanting a threesome, wanting to experience having sex with more than one woman at the same time. Hell, sometimes they even want to bring their homeboys in, and it's two of them and one female, and just like really dominate. But again, this seems to be the most common for men. Now, I'm not saying that women don't want it, because trust, they do. But this one is common in the mind of men. The idea of having two people bringing you pleasure can probably get anybody worked up. I mean, three people focused on nothing but giving and receiving pleasure. I do find that people enjoy this fantasy because of a couple of things. The first one being ego. Let's be honest. It's a stroke to a man's ego in particular. Women too, but we're talking about men on this one. Um, to believe that they can indeed somehow handle sexually pleasing, not just pleasing, but taking care of and satisfying more than one lover at the same time. I imagine that that does something for a man's ego, right? It makes him feel like he really doing something out here. A play on the psyche of masculinity. Number two, attention. There's no lack of touch and attention when multiple lovers are involved. Or at least I heard. Who doesn't want to be desired in such a way that multiple people are willing to share and experience you? Y'all, that's like my favorite thing to say, like when it comes to sex and like my involvement in sex or sex with somebody else. I feel like I enjoy experiencing you because sex is supposed to be an experience. It's supposed to be a production, right? It's supposed to make you feel good. It's supposed to make you feel wanted and needed and closer to the people that you're with. But anyway, I went on a tangent. Y'all know I always do that. All right, so number three reasons that people like to um have threesomes for the thrill of it, right? From a young age, society tells you that sex is made for marriage as a way to stay connected to your partner and birth babies. All of that is facts, we know, right? So when the idea of inviting multiple people into your bed at once enters the conversation, there is a thrill and a sense of naughtiness associated with bucking the system and getting down with more than one person at a time. Because who doesn't love being a rebel? Or the idea of it anyway. That's just like saying, telling a child you can't have this candy and sit in the candy jar in front of them and walking away. Y'all seen those TikToks and those videos, right? Who doesn't want what they're told that they're not supposed to have, or they can't have, or that is not right? If you got a little rebellion in you, you probably thought about a threesome. All right. So let's move on to the next kink, but not too kinky fantasy, okay? One of the other most common ones is sexuality switch. Now, I'll be honest with y'all, when I heard this word or this phrase and saw a sexuality switch, I was like, what the fuck is that? Like, is it like those TikToks where they turn on and turn off the lights and y'all switch clothes? Like, I didn't really understand what they were talking about. So if your mind went there, it's okay. You in good company because mine did too. But it says this one is for my ladies. One of the most common fantasies among women, according to research, is having sex with another woman. Now, do y'all get the sexuality switch? So, sexuality switch meaning your preferred sexuality or how you identify. If you're homosexual, then it would be your switch would be heterosexual and having sex with somebody of the opposite sex. Now, for us that are consider ourselves heterosexual, then the sexuality switch would be having sex with a partner of the same sex, not because we are necessarily homosexual and want to have a relationship with a person of the same sex, but because we're curious or interested, right? And so, like I said, this is actually most common according to research. Don't come from me, not according to Leah, but according to some research that I did. So, y'all Google that and y'all will find it. But I find this to be true. It's a lot of women that fantasize about having sex with other women, but don't really want to say it because they think it's going to make them gay or seem some kind of way. But it's 2025, baby. Ain't nothing weird in these streets now, right? So, yes, heterosexual women have fantasies about other women. That's a fact. Y'all can't tell me otherwise. That's a fact. I know a lot of heterosexual women who have had fantasies about other women. Now, fantasy doesn't mean that you acted on it. It just means it's something that you have thought about, right? They say that they're curious as to what it would be like. That curiosity most likely comes from the idea that women are more sensual and pay more attention to pleasure during sex than men. Now, Eric tells me all the time, he was like, I don't know why women like us. Like, why do women like dudes? There's nothing soft or inviting about it. So I'm like, boy, you ain't supposed to. But that same idea can be applied to why I think women would be interested in another woman. Most women are intrigued by the idea that another woman would know exactly how to make them feel good. Makes sense, given that they themselves are a woman. So, ladies, let me know if y'all have had that fantasy, or you got some girlfriends that have. Anyway, so let's continue down our pinky toe dip into the pond of fantasies and kinks. All right. So, anonymous sex, that good old one night stand action. Some people have never allowed themselves to have sex simply for pleasure. I find that difficult to comprehend, but not hard to believe. So I'm going to say it one more time. Some people have actually never allowed themselves to have sex for pleasure. No connection, no intimacy, just a bust a nut because it's the right person at the right place and the right time because you could. Period. That's that anonymous sex, right? It's all about how the first time with a new partner makes you feel. We've all been there. The rush, the excitement, the anticipation of the unknown touch of a person you know absolutely not a goddamn thing about, right? The idea that you can fuck and go home. Now, I'm gonna be perfectly honest with y'all, and I've said this before. I've never had a one night stand. Woo. I know, I ain't lying. I'm a drink on it though. I've never had a one night stand. Now, I've had one offs, but I knew them or we were talking previously. I just didn't go back because you know what I'm saying? It wasn't worth me going back to. Sorry. But I've never had a one night stand. But I often fantasize about having a one night stand or did previously because of all the reasons I just said. Because how is that not exciting? How is that not intriguing to just think that you're going to meet somebody in the club or at the bar? I'm too old for clubs, so we're not going to say club, but at the bar, you know, or at a party, a housewarming, a get together, a wedding, or whatever the case may be. And it's just like automatic physical attraction. It's automatic sexual tension between you and the other person. And you ain't got to tell them no stories. You ain't got to tell them about your mama and them. You ain't got to explain to them how you grew up and what your red flags are and all that because the shit don't matter because all you want to do is fuck. Like, that's exciting. It's still exciting to me. Like, that's exciting to think about something like that where you can just let all your inhibitions go and not be worried about what's gonna happen tomorrow or even afterwards. You ain't get to see that person again. So if it's trash, hell, it don't matter. Don't even tell them your name. Like that's mine. I used to have those dreams and those fantasies where it's like you just meet somebody across the room, nothing is said. Maybe you send them a drink, they send you a drink, you smile, you nod, and you go somewhere, get it in. No questions have been asked. Like, I don't need to know your name. You don't need to know my name. It's over with. Bye. Roll out. Period. I don't even want to. Don't look me up on IG or Facebook because I don't even want to know. It's something exciting about that. It still gets me. I see. Mm. Anyway, now that we are complete with what I would call our more basic fantasies and sexual desires and ideas, let's get a little bit deeper into our bag of tricks and discuss real fetishes, right? Not just fantasies, but fetishes. Now, what's the difference? Obviously, fantasies are considered relatively accepted acts that you personally might not usually partake in. Remember, I said fantasies are subjective because your fantasy could be my reality every day and vice versa. So, fantasies are generally accepted, okay? Rather, that's for religious reasons, upbringing, morals, job, etc., whatever. But a fetish, baby, a fetish is something completely different. If you indulge in fantasies or you indulge in fetishes, you have already explored and fulfilled your fantasies, right? So, baby steps. Start with your fantasies first. Start with something that's familiar to you because it's been in your brain or on your mind or on your bucket list. You start there. And then if you enjoy it, you enjoy the rush, you enjoy the creativity, you enjoy the intense nature of it, then you go a little further, right? And this is where fetishes start to bloom, okay? So much so that you have narrowed down exactly what gets you off. You know exactly where your pleasure lies. There is a niche of sexual behavior or misbehavior that turns you on. This is a fetish. A body part, an object, etc. And you go straight to it. That's your go-to. That's what gets you off, right? So what are some common slash weird fetishes and kinks? Now, there is a difference between fetishes and kinks. Now, kinks is a little bit deeper, right? Kinks are also things that get you off that may be a little weird to others. Hell, it might be weird to you. Anyway, now according to my research, because y'all know I love a good definition and love some research so I can come with facts, foot fetish is at the top of the list. Now, it ain't a damn thing in this world that turns me on about a damn foot. As a matter of fact, I can't stand for people to touch my foot. But this ain't about me. I digress. Anyway, y'all can have that one. But it is actually the most common fetish, specifically with men who love women's feet. I mean, just think about how OnlyFans and how much people get paid to send photos of their feet to other people. But anyway, those with this fetish find arousal in the sight, the smell, or touch of feet. Now, y'all gonna have to excuse my face during this because, like I said, I can't stand feet. But anyway, touch of feet, toes, or footwear. All right. Listen, the feet are sensitive and have over 200,000 nerve endings. So they are super sensitive to touch. So I get it, kind of, for you. All right, let's move on. The second most common fetish, and we briefly touched on it when I said being dominated or the dominator. We're going to get into it. BDSM, bondage, domination, sadism, and masochism, right? Takes the next spot. Now, this is a little more intense than your fantasy about being dominated. Now, this includes tying a bitch up, preventing yourself or your partner from moving, power play, spanking, restraints. Oh my. Many find satisfaction in exploring dynamics of control and pain. Now, talking about domination doesn't necessarily include pain, and this is where this differs, right? Often with one partner assuming a dominant role and the other being a submissive one. And just to be clear, this is consensual. All right. The thrill of power dynamics can heighten arousal and pleasure. For some, the experience of trust and surrender in BDSM relationships offers deep emotional connection. Let's explore that for a minute, shall we? In order for this to be your fetish, you have to put a lot of trust in someone because BDSM can go left real quick. It can trigger things in people that may not be so pleasant. You also have to be very vulnerable, whether you are the dominator or the submissive one, because you have to trust that your partner will stay within the perimeters of your agreement. So before you go into BDSM, this is what I heard. It is always a good idea to have a plan and to have safe words. Because if you are the submissive one and you enjoy receiving pain or sexual discipline or being tied up or whipped or going through slight torture, then you need to make sure that your boundaries are not crossed and that the person you are with respects that. And the easiest way to do that is to have a safe word. That's what they say. That's what they say. To have a safe word so you know when to stop, or you're the person who is dominating you knows when your level of tolerance has been reached. Now, there's nothing new about BDSM. As I stated in my intro, bondage, being spanked, being overwhelmed, all of these things go back to ancient times. So there's really nothing new under the sun for people to be like, oh, that's new, or oh, that's weird. It's weird for you because that's you, right? People have different tastes. And like I said, if you haven't even attempted to explore your fantasies, then you definitely aren't ready for fetishes, right? Okay, so let's move on. Voyeurism. Now, this can go sideways quickly. So I'm gonna need y'all to pay attention to what I'm saying, right? There's two different types of voyeurism. One is illegal, and we ain't talking about that shit. No peeping toms. And one is consensual. Okay? That's what we're talking about, right? Y'all can keep that peeping time shit for yourself. But I mean, it is a fetish. So that's why you have them. But anyway, people with this fetish enjoy watching other people either have sex or appear in a sexual nature. Now, we ain't getting into the pervs that peek in windows, like I said. This is a safe space, and I am speaking on consensual voyeurism. This includes public sexual activities if you want to be seen, right? So, this is how you can take your fetish of having sex in a public place or in an abnormal place, and it can become a fetish because you can get addicted to that shit or you can get super aroused, and it turns you on or make you have the best orgasm you done ever had in your life, right? So y'all follow me? How your fantasies can become fetishes. All right. Anyway, um, this can also mean watching your partner engage in sex with another person or persons, or watching someone that is not your partner, a stranger, in a sexual atmosphere. Now, they can be touching themselves, dancing, giving you a peep show. The thrill of secrecy and observation taps into a natural curiosity about others' private moments. So basically, people with this fetish enjoy seeing things that they're technically not supposed to see. They're eavesdropping in on a person or other people's sexual nature and what they like to do. So it gets them off, right? The allure lies in watching without being seen, which can heighten excitement. So voyeurs like to watch from a distance, or they can be in the room, but they don't necessarily want to participate themselves. Not in this particular fetish. It doesn't mean that they don't have sex. It just means that their kink or their jam, however you want to say it, is watching other people being pleasured or watching other people perform sexual acts or do something in a sexual nature. Right now, it's story time on this one. And if you're watching, sorry, boo. But I'm finna put some people business out there. I'm not gonna say their names, but I'm gonna let y'all know a little story that I was told, okay?
Y'all know what time it is, coming up next week on Sex, Love, Whiskey.
So, personally, I think voyeurism would be fun. That's like on my bucket list. I don't have a problem watching other people. I think that would be very entertaining, actually. That may be TMI. So, you know, to my child and my family, if you're watching, you know, well. So there's nothing new. Well, I thought there was nothing new under the sun, but this in particular is interesting because the husband is actually picking a man for the wife. Now, that dynamic doesn't normally come around. And I say that because even when men are open to their wives having sexual activities with other men, they don't necessarily pick them. Now, cuckolding. Now, some of y'all know what this is because y'all watch them good porno sites and y'all know what cuckolding is. Y'all gonna try to act like y'all know, but that's okay. I'm here to teach and educate. No judgment here. Like, we listen, but we don't judge, right? I've been told that during these situations, that men may actually participate in the pleasure of the other man, although that they aren't homosexual, right? So that's part of the humiliation. Or if they don't do an actual sexual act, the man might end up, you know what I'm saying, coming on them. Is that too much for y'all? Is that too much? Is that too much? So basically, you want to set the mood with tantric sex. Make sure you are in a safe, sexy space. Whatever that looks like for you and your partner. But I can't emphasize that enough. Make sure that you are in a safe place and with someone that genuinely cares about you, your well-being, and your emotional state. All right, now ain't nothing sexier than eye contact to me. If somebody can look me in my eyes and reach me deep down in my soul without saying a word, and all they doing is looking at me, and breathing and being soothing and caressing me. Ooh. Anyway, you don't have to penetrate at this exact moment, right? Because again, we aren't focused on the end game. We're focused on the journey and how it's making you feel, right? This is all about the build-up, anticipation, and how your partner feels on you, right? Soft kisses, rough kisses, whatever tickles your fantasy.